Hello, welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We have 3 stories for you today. Go ahead and tow me. Okay. If my work is that bad, then it would be better for everyone if I quit. And they didn't want me to be saucy. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Alright, let's get started. Our first story. Go ahead and tow me. Okay. Hey there, Reddit. I love some malicious compliance first thing in the morning. I hope you enjoy this short and sweet story. I work for a meditation and holistic wellness store. Our parking lot is very small and shares spaces with other businesses, so we have marked spots for the different businesses. On this particular morning, a gentleman parked in one of our spots and then proceeded to not come into the store or any of the other businesses we share space with. I went outside and kindly asked him to park somewhere else, as there is ample parking throughout the area. He so kindly flipped me off, to which I replied, "If you walk away, I can have your car towed." He continued to flip me off as he walked away and said, "Yeah, okay, go right ahead." So I did. The towing company came and took his car. Needless to say, he was super pissed when he got back, and his car was missing.
Caused quite a scene and asked why the F I towed his car.
To which I replied, "You said to go ahead and tow your car. Besides, it's bad karma to steal someone else's parking space." I gave him the card for the towing company and told him to have a nice day. Happy Friday, jerkwad. Our next story. If my work is that bad, then it would be better for everyone if I quit. My last job was okay, but not fantastic. We were always short-staffed, and as a result, we had to make up any time lost due to absence or illness. But the real trial was our boss, who was one of those seagull bosses, always wanting drastic changes to everything, no matter how unnecessary they were or how much harder it would make our work. He also constantly threatened to fire people. I'd had a fuck up the previous year. I admit it was on me, and my supervisor, a very good one, helped me sort it out and make sure it didn't happen again. But we had received some customer complaints, and I was paranoid about getting more, and boy, did the boss like to hold that over my head. Anyway, more than a year later, I applied on a whim to a very well-regarded company in my town. To my surprise, I get the position. It's much better run and organized, so it's a great deal. But I do feel a bit bad for my old work since we're about to hit a very busy season. At least until my boss called and said he'd received a complaint about me, and I needed to shape up or I'd be fired. I was really upset, but then, wait a minute, it's been the dead season just now. I haven't done anything to provoke complaints. I messaged my supervisor, and yep, no complaints since the last year. The boss was either making it up or pretending the complaints were from this year. So, I decided this was the perfect opportunity. I messaged my boss and told him that since there were so many complaints and I wasn't getting any better, it would be best for me to step down from my role as I obviously could not do it. An immediate backpedal on his part. Suddenly the complaints didn't mean anything. I could get a raise, take sick leave, anything. Since it wouldn't be the first time, he'd promised us the moon and delivered a bowl of dirt, I didn't budge. He'd been telling me all year that I was on the verge of being fired and wasn't good enough for my role, so it was best I go. He hung up and got the poor supervisor to call instead, and she twigged pretty quickly when I mentioned where I'd be working now, and all but said that if she got the chance, she'd jump ship for that too. Anyway, I've been at my new job for 2 years now, and it's great, no regrets. And our last story. They didn't want me to be saucy. About 10 or 12 years ago, I was working in a fairly popular pub/restaurant, which I'll call Jade's Jorvik. There were multiple problems with this place, primarily the then general manager, GM, who was, well, a bully, but I happen to remember this little nugget, which still leaves me feeling slightly self-satisfied. I was required a few times a week to fill up the sauce bottles from a bigger bottle. Due to food date restrictions, this was illegal, as they were making me put new sauces on old sauces, which, frankly, had been in there for a while. I had to do this in an alcove just outside the kitchen entrance. This is important for later. The first time I was asked to do this, I questioned it, and one of the assistant managers, AM, alluded to me losing my job if I refused to do it, so as a dumb 20-ish-year-old, I kept doing it. About a month later, While I was doing this job, the same AM came running up to me and told me to stop as a surprise kitchen inspection was about to happen from an outside source. I looked at them, continued to fill up the sauces, and said something along the lines of, "But I can't stop, you told me you'd find someone else who would if I didn't." They looked furious but told me I needed to stop as they weren't supposed to be doing it. So I stopped and very slowly started putting everything away, and I saw the GM walk past with the inspector. I remember the GM looking at me with what I can only describe as a scowl on his face when he saw what I was doing. I just waved at him with one of the bottles in my hand. I was asked to do the same job a few days later, and I just told them if it wasn't acceptable during the inspection, it wasn't acceptable now, and I refused, and it wasn't brought up again. I'm sure they ended up just making someone else do it, but hey ho. It was nice to get one over a job that, even a decade later, I still rank as the worst place I've ever worked. And I got threatened with a homemade shiv at a school, so that says a lot about that place. Edit, I absolutely wanted to do the correct and legal thing, as commented below, but was told not to, as explained above, after threats about my job. Suggestions on what should have been done are welcome, but the likelihood is I recommended these, and they were ignored. And yes, emails were sent out after I left. I called out bad work practices a lot more when I grew up and was more aware of processes. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.